Thanks very much, Ben. See you a little bit later on. Thank you.
Now, as part of the BBC's continuing coverage of the centenary of the First World War, we're looking at how the war affected civilians at home.
Well, with exclusive access to the archives at the Imperial War Museum by this time next year, over 1,000 stories will be broadcast, each one giving a unique perspective on the home front. Well, for more, we can cross now to Robert Hall, who's in Scarborough for us all day today, the first place in the United Kingdom to face bombardment from the German Navy in December 1914. Robert, hello.
Yes, good morning, you two. Yeah, it does seem odd, doesn't it, when you stand here on a pretty nice day, really, outside a peaceful seaside town, to think that it was in the front line. But in fact, the lighthouse there was one of the first buildings on mainland Britain to be hit by enemy fire during the First World War. It all happened on a December day in 1914, and two German warships, they were out to attack British towns and cities. They shelled Whitby, they shelled Hartlepool, and they shelled Scarborough. And Scarborough sustained something like 18 dead here and a great deal more people injured. It was a real shock to the town. It was unprovoked, came out of the blue on a day when nobody even suspected anything like that could happen. And yet, as you're about to find out, Scarborough bounced back. Let's hear from Michelle Lyons, who compiled this report for BBC Look North.
On the day of the bombardment, my mother came here for Holy Communion at 8 o'clock in the morning. And during the communion service, the bombardment started and the church was one of the first to be hit.
The intense shelling left a large hole in the roof of St Martin's on the Hill in Scarborough, and as hundreds of visitors and residents fled the seaside town, one woman decided to stay, as she had an important engagement to keep.
My parents were to be married in the church later on, and after the bombardment she went round and picked up a piece of shrapnel, which we still have, then had a discussion with the vicar, and they decided that the wedding would go ahead.
This attitude that life must go on prevailed in Scarborough, and its tourism industry responded to the aftermath of the bombardment. Now people weren't coming to the seaside town for fresh air and fun, they were coming to survey the damage.
It's difficult to imagine postcards of blown out buildings being produced, and of course we had one of the major postcard producers in Scarborough, and there were also sort of ceramic souvenirs. There's a lovely one that we have in our collection, which is the lighthouse with a hole blown through it. I've not seen many examples of that, but that was obviously sold. And there were pieces of shell that were not just circulated but were sold as well, and they were mounted on blocks of wood and pieces of metal.
And there's one legacy of the bombardment in Scarborough which is still attracting attention. Number 2 Wycombe Street. It was badly hit. Her mother and 3 of her children died as a result. This house may have a macabre history, but people are still interested in its past.
I've had quite a few people on a regular basis. Every year we seem to get somebody knocks and inquires, did I know anything about the house, and is it still, did I understand the pictures? And a lot of them actually even bring books and pictures with them and want to show me what has actually gone on.
It took years for the town to recover from the bombardment. Compensation for the damage was slow in coming, so residents had to rally round and do the best they could with the little money they had. But slowly and surely, Scarborough made a comeback as the tourist destination we know and love today, made famous by its beautiful views and not its ugly past.
Well, Julie Baxter from the museum. You've got the booklet here, which was written about, it talks about people being in the sea and the shells coming in. How Scarborough bounced back, how?
Well, Scarborough had no choice. The town is a tourist town, and all the money, most of the money came from the tourist industry, and they could not afford to have people not come into the town. So basically they had to carry on regardless, and they had to just carry on the same way. And to do that, they produced booklets like this one. This was for the tourist industry, and it shows all the different things that happened during the bombardment, all photographs, and you could have different different ones. This was a poor man's booklet, but they did hardbacks for the more well-off people.
No, there was tragedy here. Let's face it,
Absolutely,
18
yes,
people, possibly
yeah.
19 people
Yeah,
died.
yeah.
You've got one item here which I found fascinating, which is this item in the picture frame here. If I hold that just so we don't get any reflection. Tell me about that, Julie.
This is from Dunolly, which is Dunolly Nursing Home now. It was Dunolly House, and this was from the library, and the library was hit really badly, and this is a piece of shell in one of the books from the library.
Wow, you can see how it's cut through an individual book.
It is, yes, yeah. And we think this is a book of Dickens, one of Dickens' books. But tragically, 2 people lost their lives at Dunolly.
Now, you at the museum here, like a lot of places, are going to be doing something this year to draw people in, because this is all about new generations, isn't it, and trying to make a connection.
It is, yeah, and we're having an exhibition which starts on the 26th of July at Scarborough Art Gallery for 6 months until January, and it will show many of these objects that we've got in our collections.
Fascinating. I'm sure it's going to be a really big draw. Julie, thank you very much indeed. Now, if you want to see more about Scarborough, of course, you can watch Look North if you're in this part of the UK, or you can look on the BBC website, bbc.co.uk/World War I. And the government say it's all about making World War I relevant, this commemoration, and it's stories like this which will achieve that. Back to you.
Thank you, Robert.